Dad. We're going to be breaking down all the key ideas from this book and really seeing what the hype is all about. Challenges a lot of the traditional ways we think about money. So get ready for some serious paradigm shifts.
Yeah, what's really fascinating about this book is how it throws out the old rule book when it comes to building wealth. Like, it's not about just saving every penny. It's about, like, changing your whole perspective.
Totally. And right away, Kiyosaki throws us into this world of two dads. His own father, the poor dad, follow that traditional path. Good education, stable job, the whole 9 yards. But he struggled financially even though he did everything right. Then there's his friend's father, the rich dad, who dropped out of school and built like this whole business empire. It really makes you question, what success really means.
Yeah, and Kiyosaki uses those two figures to show just how different those mindsets really are. The poor dad, represents that old belief system. Work hard, get a good job, save money, But the rich dad, he focuses on financial literacy, understanding how money actually works and building assets that create income.
It's almost like we're just taught to think about money in one specific way. And we never even stop to think if there's a better way.
Absolutely, and that's where that whole financial literacy piece comes in. Kiyosaki argues that traditional education doesn't give us the tools to actually manage our money well, like understand investments or even just read a financial statement. And he believes that those are things that are actually crucial for building wealth, not just, earning a paycheck.
So it's not just about getting that high-paying job. We need to get like the mechanics of money itself.
Yeah, think of it like this. You wouldn't drive a car without understanding the basics of how it works, right? You need to know how to like steer and accelerate and hit the brakes to get where you need to go. Financial literacy is kind of like that for your money. It's knowing how to make your money work for you, not just working for your money.
I love that analogy. And one of the things from the book that really drives that point home is this whole idea of assets versus liabilities. And Kiyosaki kind of flips the script on what we usually think of as an asset.
He really does challenge the way we normally think, right? He says an asset is anything that puts money into your pocket, like a rental property that brings in income or stocks that pay dividends. And a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket, like a car loan, credit card debt, or even like that new gadget you just had to have.
So even something like a house, which a lot of people consider their biggest asset, could actually be acting as a liability.
Exactly. If your house is like draining your income every month, with mortgage payments and property taxes and all the upkeep, and it's not making any money for you, it's acting more like a liability than an asset. It's all about that cash flow.
That's a huge change in thinking for a lot of people. It forces you to really look at what's actually working for you financially and what's holding you back.
For sure. And this brings us to another big idea, escaping the rat race. Kiyosaki uses that metaphor to describe that cycle a lot of people get stuck in, working to pay the bills, piling up debt, just constantly chasing that next paycheck, but never really getting ahead.
It's a tough truth, but it feels very real for a lot of people. Like, are we all just running on this financial treadmill going nowhere?
It is a really common trap, especially, in a society that kind of equates a big salary with success. But Kiyosaki's point is that real wealth comes from building those assets that create passive income, money that's working for you even when you aren't.
So how do we actually break free from that rat race? What does Kiyosaki say we should do?
Well, he gives some advice that's not exactly typical. Instead of chasing the highest paying job right out of the gate, he says to look for opportunities to learn and develop valuable skills, even if it means starting out with a lower salary. It's all about investing in your future earning potential.
So it's like playing the long game, focusing on gaining knowledge and experience. That'll ultimately pay off more down the road.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Learning a skill is like planting a seed. It takes time and effort to nurture it, but eventually it can grow into this big tree. That gives you a steady stream of income for years to come.
I love that analogy. And that leads into another important idea from the book, that whole focus on entrepreneurship and investing. The rich dad in the story is all about creating businesses and making your money work for you instead of just relying on a paycheck.
Yeah, he challenges that traditional idea of job security and encourages people to be more entrepreneurial. So instead of seeing a job as the only way to make money, the rich dad sees opportunities everywhere to create value and generate income through businesses and investments.
But starting a business or investing can feel really intimidating, especially if you're new to all of it. How does Kiyosaki address that?
He acknowledges that fear is a big obstacle for a lot of people when it comes to money, the fear of failure, the fear of losing money, the fear of the unknown, all of that. It can hold people back from taking risks. and going after financial opportunities.
Oh, how do we get over those fears
Hmm.
and start taking control of our financial futures?
That's a great question, and it's actually something we're going to dive into deeper in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Uh,
Before we left off, we were talking about how fear can really hold us back from, taking those leaps towards financial freedom.
yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people listening can probably relate to that feeling. But Kiyosaki seems to have a different take on fear.
He does, yeah. Instead of seeing fear as like a stop sign, he sees it as more of a signal. He says that fear often points to the areas where we need to learn and grow. It's almost like a compass, guiding us toward the skills and knowledge we need to really overcome those financial limitations we might have.
So it's more about leaning into that fear
Hmm.
instead of trying to run away from it. But how do we actually turn that into something we can do? What are some practical things we can start doing to, build that financial confidence?
Well, one of the first things Kiyosaki really stresses is the importance of mastering the basics of personal finance. He believes everyone should understand things like how to read and interpret financial statements.
Okay, but for those of us who aren't accountants, how do we even start to figure those things out? They can seem pretty intimidating.
I get it, but Kiyosaki breaks it down in a way that makes it a lot easier to understand. He says that understanding something like a balance sheet is kind of like learning the language of money. It shows you that snapshot of your financial health. What you own, your assets, what you owe, your liabilities, and what's left over, which is your equity.
So instead of being scared of those numbers,
Hmm.
we need to embrace them and figure out how to use them to our advantage.
Exactly. Think of it like a map. A financial statement shows you where you are financially, and understanding it can help you plan a route to get where you want to be.
He also talks a lot about cash flow.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Kiyosaki's a big believer in having your money work for you, instead of always trading your time for money. And he makes a distinction between two kinds of cash flow. One where you're working for money, like a traditional job, and another where the money is working for you, like income from investments or a business.
So the goal is to create these systems where money's coming into your pocket.
Yeah.
Even when you're not actively working, that sounds pretty great.
It is, and it's the foundation of building long-term wealth. Think about things like rental properties that generate passive income, dividend-paying stocks that consistently give you those payouts, or, an online business that's humming along even while you sleep. Those are all examples of money working for you.
That makes sense, but creating those systems seems really daunting. Like, where do you even begin?
Kiyosaki encourages starting small and gradually building up your knowledge and experience as you go. You don't need to be a millionaire to start investing or launching a business. There are tons of resources out there to help you learn, and so many opportunities to start small and scale up as you get more confident.
So it's about taking those first steps, even if they seem small at the time.
Exactly. He also really emphasizes finding mentors and learning from people who have already achieved the success you want. Surround yourself with people who can guide you and offer those insights based on what they've learned.
That's a great point. It's all about surrounding yourself with the right people
Yeah.
and soaking up all that wisdom.
Absolutely. And speaking of wisdom, another key takeaway from Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the importance of managing risk. Kiyosaki challenges the idea that rich people are just reckless gamblers. He argues that they're actually really calculated risk takers.
So it's not about avoiding risk entirely. It's more about understanding how to evaluate it and manage it in a smart way.
Exactly. He stresses the importance of understanding the difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt is used to acquire assets that'll make you money, while bad debt is used to buy liabilities that drain your resources.
Like that saying, it takes money to make money, but it's got to be the right kind of money. Used strategically to build those assets that help you grow financially.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Kiyosaki wants us to develop our financial intelligence so we can make informed decisions about where to invest and how to use debt in a way that benefits us. It's about becoming financially savvy, not financially afraid.
This is all so empowering. It feels like Rich Dad, Poor Dad is giving us the tools to not just dream about financial freedom, but to actually build it.
I agree. It definitely is. But achieving financial freedom isn't just about mastering financial strategies. It's also about a fundamental shift in mindset.
You're talking about that distinction he makes between a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset.
Right, exactly. And that's a crucial concept that we're going to unpack in the final part of our deep dive. It's all about changing your relationship with money, from one of fear and limitation to one of possibility and abundance. So stay with us.
Welcome back. We're diving into this last part of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I'm really interested to explore this whole thing about scarcity versus abundance mindsets. Seems like a really important part of unlocking a totally new way of thinking about wealth.
It really is, and it goes beyond just personal finance, you know. It's more about your overall attitude toward resources, opportunities, and what you believe you can achieve.
So how do you actually tell the difference between a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset?
Well, Kiyosaki says a scarcity mindset comes from fear and limitation. It's that feeling that there's just not enough to go around, not enough money, opportunities, success, any of it. And it leads to this constant feeling of competition and anxiety and feeling like you're stuck.
It's like you're looking at the world through this lens of lack, always focused on what you don't have instead of what you do have.
Exactly. And that can become like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, if you believe there's not enough, you're less likely to take risks or go after opportunities or even believe that you deserve to have abundance.
So how do we change that? How do we go from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset? It feels like it can be a pretty ingrained way of thinking.
It can be, especially if you know you were raised that way or your environment reinforces it, or even just messages from society in general. But Kiyosaki believes anyone can shift their mindset if they make a conscious effort.
So what does an abundance mindset actually look like?
Well, it starts with recognizing that resources and opportunities aren't actually limited. It's about seeing the potential in everything and believing in your ability to create value and having faith that the universe will provide for you.
So instead of thinking of the world as this pie that everyone's fighting over a slice of, it's more like there's this ever-expanding feast with plenty for everybody.
I like that. That's a great analogy. And an abundance mindset is also about generosity. It's not about hoarding what you have, but about sharing it and believing that the more you give, the more you'll receive.
It seems like this whole shift in mindset takes a certain amount of trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, maybe even trust in something bigger than yourself.
You got it. That's it exactly. It's about letting go of that fear of not having enough and embracing the belief that there is enough for everyone, including you. It's about shifting your focus from competition to collaboration, from scarcity to possibility.
That's really powerful, and I think it applies to way more than just money. It's about having a more positive and empowered approach to life overall.
Absolutely. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is all about questioning what we think we know, breaking free from beliefs that are holding us back, and embracing a whole new way of thinking about money, wealth, and what we're capable of.
This deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad has been so insightful. We've explored so many important ideas, from understanding those financial statements and cash flow to embracing entrepreneurship and managing risk. But I think the biggest takeaway for me is the importance of developing an abundance mindset.
I agree. That shift in perspective is absolutely crucial for creating lasting wealth and living a more fulfilling life.
So as we wrap up here, we want to encourage you to think about this. What would it look like for you to fully embrace an abundance mindset in your own life? Keep that question in mind as you continue on your journey toward financial freedom and a life of abundance. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm so excited for this deep dive.
Yeah, this should be fun.
It's all about trends and imagination. And, you know, we've got this snippet from the Trend and Trending YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
It's pretty cool, right? And how they talk about keeping up to date on trends, but also, like, using those trends as fuel for your imagination.
Yeah, it's like they're saying don't just follow the trend, but let it inspire you to be more creative.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Like, we often think of trends as, you know, kind of superficial or fleeting.
Right, just like a fad.
But what if they could actually be like secret doorways to unlock our imaginations?
I like that. Secret doorways. That's a cool way to put it.
So how does this work? I mean, how does knowing like the latest fashion trend or whatever help me write a better song or come up with a new invention or something?
Well, it's like this. Trends are kind of like sparks. Little sparks.
Okay.
They expose us to new ideas, new aesthetics, you know, new ways of thinking about the world.
Right.
And that exposure, even in small doses, can trigger something in our minds.
So it's like seeing a trend as the initial spark and then diving deeper into it is what really adds fuel to that fire.
Exactly. So let's say you see a trend online about tiny houses and minimalist living. That might spark an interest in sustainable architecture or something, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
And then you could explore that interest further by, you know, reading a book about it.
Oh, yeah, or like listening to an audiobook.
Yeah, an audiobook on sustainable architecture. You could learn about innovative designs, different building materials, the philosophy behind the whole movement.
So instead of just observing the trend, you're like actually engaging with it on a deeper level.
Yeah, and that's where those imaginative leaps can happen.
That's really cool. It's like those trends we see online are just the tip of the iceberg. There's this whole world of knowledge and inspiration underneath.
I think a lot of people miss that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's easy to just scroll past a trend and not think much of it.
But if you take a second to think about what that trend represents, what it's saying about society, what interests it might connect to, it can be really powerful.
It's like a jumping off point.
Exactly. And I think that's what the Trend and Trending channel is getting at. They even mentioned Amazon Audible.
Oh, right. They were talking about how exploring audiobooks and podcasts can help expand our imaginative horizons.
Yeah. Think about it, like just browsing through Audible's library can spark ideas.
Yeah, just seeing all those different genres and topics and voices, it really does kind of open up possibilities.
And there's something for everyone. Whether you're into fiction or nonfiction, history or science fiction, there's an audiobook out there that can connect to a trend you've seen and take your imagination to a whole new level.
This is seriously making me rethink how I look at trends.
Me too.
It's not just about keeping up anymore. It's about using trends as springboards to dive deeper into stuff that fascinates me.
And learning more and growing.
So even in this fast-paced world of, internet trends, there's this huge opportunity for imagination and self-discovery.
Totally agree.
And hey, think about it.
Mm.
Does staying informed about trends help your imagination, or does it hurt it? And could exploring different kinds of content like audiobooks and podcasts spark new ideas and perspectives you might not have found otherwise?
That's a good question for everyone listening.
Yeah. Keep those questions in mind. And be sure to check out the Trend and Trending channel for more trend insights.
Always interesting stuff over there.
Who knows what imaginative adventures are waiting for you?
All right, that's it for this one.
See you next time.
See ya.